The latest now on a story that we have been following very closely here on Live Now from Fox. It's been several days since 3 football players were shot and killed when a gunman opened fire inside of a charter bus, also wounding 2 other students. This happening late Sunday night as the bus was returning from a field trip in D.C. where the students were seeing a play. The suspected gunman, Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., is going to be in court later on this morning. Let's bring in Fox 5 DC's Bob Barnard. He is live outside that courthouse there in Virginia. Thank you so much for being here with us.
You bet, Josh. Our pleasure. We're in Charlottesville, Virginia, not far from the UVA campus. What we believe is that the murder suspect, Mr. Jones, is going to remain in the Albemarle County Jail this morning and appear in the courtroom here via a video hookup. And the hearing is expected to start in about 35 minutes, right about 9 o'clock Eastern time. Basically, Mr. Jones, it'll be determined whether he can afford his own lawyer or whether a public defender will be appointed for him and what his bond status is. And clearly, we don't expect him to get any bond. He'll more than likely be held without bond. He is facing 3 counts of second-degree murder for the murders of the 3 UVA football players and 2 new additional counts of malicious wounding, and that's for shooting and wounding 2 other students who were on the bus. One of them, the 4th, is also a football player, Mike Hollins, a junior running back from Louisiana. And then the 5th student is a young woman named Marley Morgan. Don't know much more about her other than she has been in good condition. We believe she is still hospitalized but is about to get out. But Mike Hollins remains in very serious condition in the hospital. He was badly injured in the attack. What the motive is, Josh, we don't know still. This was, as you mentioned, on Sunday night back here on campus on a charter bus that had taken about 25 students to a play in Northeast D.C. This was a class about African-American playwrights, and they were in D.C. seeing a play about Emmett Till, the young 14-year-old who was murdered in the South back in the mid-1950s, which was part of the touchstone for the civil rights movement. They were just arriving back here in Charlottesville after attending that day-long field trip to D.C. when the shots rang out. The New York Post, the Washington Post reporting that Jones had kind of stayed by himself on the bus and at the theater, and then right before the shooting had mentioned something about video games. But really, what sparked the shooting, what motivated him to open fire on his fellow classmates, we just don't know. He was a one-time football player as a freshman back in 2018, Christopher Jones was, but we don't believe he knew intimately or well at all any of the victims that he allegedly shot on the bus.
So a big question here, once we go into court, is it possible that they could release just a few more details or anything that does kind of pinpoint at least a possible motive?
Potentially, Josh. We don't know. This is not, a plea hearing or anything like that, or a preliminary hearing. This is just really to check out the status of his legal defense and a bond status. They could throw some documents our way, introduce them in court. We get our hands on them. That talks to perhaps a motive or what this was all about. We just don't know. His parents have been quoted. Jones's parents have been quoted not only on our air, but also in the Richmond newspaper, saying that he may have felt bullied, that he was paranoid in some way, perhaps. Jones is from the Richmond area, Petersburg, Virginia. But he also had a bit of a legal issue that he hadn't yet followed through with here in Charlottesville. He had apparently made some kind of threat about having a gun. It was being investigated. It was supposed to be reviewed by a student judicial panel, and it never got to that point. He was never questioned about that. So there are some concerns here that he should have been on the university's radar for having made a threat about a gun that was never found. The gun was never found. And he also, in another part of Virginia, had a criminal case for possessing a gun in a concealed way without a permit. You're supposed to, when you apply to a school or when you're in a university, let them know if you have any, criminal history or record, and he apparently did not do that. So there were some cracks here that he may have fallen through. And we'll see if any more of this material evidence or information comes out in court this morning, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, still so much left to figure out here. Fox DC's Bob Barnard, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You bet, Josh. Our pleasure.